Good afternoon. I'm Mark, President and CEO of the Illinois Manufacturers Association, and I'm so pleased that all of our manufacturing leaders and retail friends could join us today in Springfield for 2023 Business Day. We have nearly 400 business leaders in attendance, making it the largest gathering of employers during the legislative session in Springfield. Our legislators need to hear your voices in the coming days or closing days of the legislative session. Illinois manufacturers employ 650,000 men and women in their factories today who contribute the single largest share of our state's economy, about 14%. Manufacturing jobs on average pay $80,000 a year in wages and benefits, with more than 94% providing employer-funded health care. And make no mistake, manufacturing is the single greatest driver of economic progress, innovation, and wealth in our nation. Whether it was the Civil War, the Industrial Revolution, advent of the assembly line, the space race, Industry 4.0, Illinois manufacturers have played a key role in nearly every major historical event in our nation's history. But you all know this, and it's why you're here today. We're blessed to be located in Illinois that has many advantages. Our central location, great infrastructure, all 6 Class 1 railroads. I would have said 7, but there was a merger a couple weeks ago. Excellent colleges and universities, a skilled workforce, access to water, something we didn't have to think about years ago, a global city, an international airport, 2 national laboratories. I could go on and on. Now we have to get a few policies right at the State House, and you're going to hear about some of those later today. You're going to hear from the governor, the lieutenant governor, and others who are intricately involved in making sure that Illinois has the right policies. But we have to do it in a civilized and productive manner. We don't have to yell and scream. We can work together collaboratively to get solutions, and that's important. Last year, under Irma's leadership and the IMA helped, we negotiated an agreement on unemployment insurance where ultimately the governor and lawmakers approved using $4 billion in ARPA funds to wipe out Illinois' unemployment insurance debt and save all of you from higher taxes. Today, we're working to pass carbon capture and storage, for example, that will not only add 14,000 good jobs and $3 billion in economic benefits, it'll help reduce our carbon footprint. And most importantly, we need to finally fix BIPA, the Biometric Information Privacy Act. Too many employers, nearly 2,000, are facing lawsuits from trial bar today because they simply use time clocks or face scans for security. Billions of dollars have already been paid out without any finding of harm, and the recent White Castle decision could cost them $17 billion. It's a lot of hamburgers, folks. Manufacturers and retailers have been working with the administration, the attorney general, lawmakers, and advocates so we can finally fix this law that was passed 15 or 16 years ago and doesn't reflect today's technology. Days like this don't just automatically happen, so I'd like to give a few thanks as I close, particularly our wonderful sponsors. You're going to see them, or you've seen them up on the board: Constellation, Boeing, McLean Fogg, Caterpillar, John Deere, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Citgo, and others. I'd first like to ask our wonderful board of directors quickly to stand and be recognized. If you're an IMA board member, please stand. Thank you. Well, I'm also the face of it. These events don't happen by themselves. So I'd like to give a big round of applause to the IMA team and the IRMA team for pulling this together. Thank you. And finally, we have a lot of partners that are together in the room, not only the member companies, but folks like Carol Portman at Taxpayers Federation, Mark Beal at CICI, Dave Boulay at IMEC, Ted with Calumet Area Industrial Commission, folks from the Chicagoland Chamber, Jim Watson, Tim Butler with the railroads, John Conrad with iBio, Brad Cole Municipal League, Tim Butler Railroads. I said that, Tim, twice. Make a note of that. So thanks to all of you for being great partners for manufacturers. And finally, thanks to all of you for coming to Springfield. We know it's not easy taking a day out of your busy schedules, you're running companies, so thank you. Your voice matters, your impact on our state is huge. We all know that the last couple of years have been challenging. Our nation, our state, our way of life will continue to face challenges. We don't know what's coming next, and I don't have a crystal ball, but what I do know is that American manufacturers, each and every one of you in this room, and our retail friends, have the solutions to the problems that we're gonna face in the future. Curing disease, developing energy resources, feeding the world, ensuring our nation's defense, building our infrastructures, Manufacturers built this nation. We're going to continue to be part of the solution, working with folks like the governor, lieutenant governor, and our lawmakers. It's now my pleasure to introduce my chairman, Greg Webb, from the Archer Daniels Midland Company, which is an amazing and innovative company, for a few remarks. Greg?
Thank you very much, Mark. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome you to this business day today. My name is Greg Webb, and I work with ADM. I'm very humbled to be the chairman of the board of IMA, and I think many of us have people who keep us in check with our humbleness, and for me, that's my wife, Colleen. I think we represent the diversity of the state of Illinois. You see, she's a South Side Irish Catholic. I grew up in Johnson County, Illinois, where we've got 13,000 souls. She's a Chicago White Sox fan. I'm a St. Louis Cardinal fan. But we met at Southern Illinois University. And how she keeps me humble, I'm going to share a story with you. We've had the opportunity to attend 4 of the last 5 presidential inaugurations. And so we were going to a ball one evening, and she had an evening gown on, and I had rented a tuxedo, and I was just feeling pretty good about life. And I said, honey, in your wildest dreams, did you ever think we'd be able to be at places like this and do things like this? And she looked up at me and she said, honey, you were never in my wildest dreams. I just want to draw attention to the excellence of the Illinois Manufacturers Association. In my mind, they stand for 3 things. They're purpose-driven, they are thoughtful, and they are responsive. When I say purpose-driven, they do things to expose the visibility of manufacturers in this state. Makers on the Move. Governor Pritzker was just with us on the Makers Madness program not long ago. And we have an excellent operation in our education foundation, bringing visibility to young people about the industry of manufacturing. In their thoughtfulness, they provide relevant programming. We were just talking this morning about the retention rate of our members. It's fantastic. And to me, that's because there's a relevance. They listen to members and have a deliverance of important information. And then in responsiveness, again, programming is important. We have an excellent government relations team here. I know that team is well respected to try to provide balanced, practical public policy to all of us as Illinois citizens. Finally, I think about dreaming about what we will become one day. Illinois today is a top manufacturing state. But I would dream of the day when, in 2022, the IMA was noted by its manufacturing association peers as the top manufacturing association. And I dream of the day when Illinois will be known as the top manufacturing in the country. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Greg. I am Rob Carr, and it's my privilege to serve as President and CEO of the Illinois Retail Merchants Association. Allow me to add my welcome to Business Day 2023. I think this is an important opportunity for those who make and those who sell to join together as we do, our staffs do every day at the Capitol, but to come together this day to make your voices heard. It's an opportunity to be seen and heard to all elected officials from the governor on down, and to ensure elected officials across the spectrum know that employers are interested and engaged on many of the issues that confront them. Well, so thank you for taking time away from your businesses to join us today. The retail sector, as with the manufacturing sector, is among the most dynamic and evolutionary. I think it's because we are consumer facing all of the time. We are the largest source of revenue for local government and the second largest for the state of Illinois. So goes retail, so goes the services and the government, the work that the governments do on our behalf and for citizens. I want to thank all of the sponsors for this event today from IRMA, whose names and logos have been on the screens, as well as in the program materials. We want to thank these sponsors for their generous support of IRMA and helping make days like today possible. I want to give special mention to our event hosts. This year, they are Amazon, the Home Depot, and Walmart. Thank you to these three companies for exemplary support of IRMA at the highest level. This level of support is central to our success. So thank you to those three and to all of our sponsors. As we have for the past few weeks, we will continue to recognize our various sponsors at their appropriate levels on IRMA's webpage, social media channels, and publications. Additionally, we want to recognize retail-related organizations who are also joining us. They are the Cannabis Business Association of Illinois, International Council of Shopping Centers, the Illinois Beverage Association, and the Taxpayers Federation of Illinois. As Mark mentioned, a few colleagues from organizations we regularly work with have joined us, including the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce, the Illinois Licensed Beverage Association, the Lake Effect Development Corporation, the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce, and the Illinois Municipal League. I would be voted worst boss of the year, I may be anyway, but if I didn't remember to thank the entire IRMA team with whom it is a privilege to work each day and without whom this event would never come together. The IRMA team includes our board of directors, whose guidance is so important and vital to the success of IRMA. And if you are a member of the IRMA board of directors, I'd like you to stand and be recognized. We have what we believe will be an exciting and informative day for everyone. Nowhere else do you get to hear from multiple statewide officials and key legislative leaders in one sitting. Not to mention timely panels on two issues touching every company in this room, every person in this room, and every employer in the state: the Biometric Information Privacy Act and artificial intelligence. We hope you'll take full advantage of these opportunities today. Finally, after you've done the hard work, there's an opportunity to interact at the party under the tent, where attendees will be treated to wonderful offerings from various IRMA members who have generously donated their product for your enjoyment. Those who have attended before can attest the party is not to be missed and has become a marquee event of the spring legislative session. Not to mention, we occasionally have dignitaries stop in for their own revelry. So it's now my pleasure to introduce to you IRMA's fearless leader, the chairman of IRMA's board of directors and president of the family-owned Potash Markets with 3 locations in the city of Chicago, IRMA board chairman Art Potash.
Thank you, Rob. Good afternoon and welcome to Business Day 2023. I'm Art Potash, CEO of Potash Markets in Chicago. It's an honor to serve as chairman of the IRMA Board of Directors. It's great to be here and to see everyone as we continue to put the pandemic in our collective rearview mirrors. On the legislative front, over 6,600 bills were introduced in this first year of the 103rd General Assembly, the second most ever introduced in the first year of an assembly. Quite frankly, much of the legislation presents additional challenges to the business community. Thankfully, the respective teams at IRMA and IMA have done a great job of containing most of the harm, at least as we sit here today. I cannot say enough about our President, Rob Carr, for his continued superhuman effort. Thank you, Rob. Of course, Rob cannot do it alone. I'd like to recognize the IRMA staff for their hard work on our behalf, so we can focus on our own businesses on a day-to-day basis. I'd like to acknowledge Dawn Durkin, Brian Jordan, Alec Laird, Chauncey Rice, and Bryn Scott. Please join me in recognizing the IRMA staff. I cannot stand before you today as a lifelong Chicagoan and businessman with several decades of owning and running businesses in the city of Chicago and ignore the elephant in the room. I'm talking about the recent unsettling events in downtown Chicago just over a week ago. Among the associations here today and others representing businesses in Chicago and Illinois, we must offer our support and yet insist upon concrete and measurable action to prevent similar occurrences from happening yet again. These type of occurrences continue to erode confidence on the part of citizens, businesses and their employees, and tourists who might want to visit Chicago and the state of Illinois. I know that IRMA stands ready to help Mayor-elect Johnson and every elected official at the state and local level who seek constructive engagement with input feedback, and cooperation wherever possible, with a common sense, retail, and business point of view. Before the election, then candidate Johnson invited the business community to come to the table to help address the challenges that we face together. We are heartened that this invitation appears to still stand. As a business community, we must be prepared to work harder, perhaps think differently, and consider things we have not considered previously to navigate these challenging times and help make a difference for the better. Those of us who are here today have lived up to all previous challenges, or we wouldn't be here. It's not going to be easy, but we can create opportunities from the challenges that we face today. And I remain confident that we can still prosper and make a difference in the communities that we serve. So let's use our time in Springfield effectively to learn, share, and grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. He's the first Illinois governor to win re-election since 2006, and he did it fairly handily. No one can argue that he dreams no small dreams, and pursues his goals with gusto. And it's been my pleasure, and I know that of Mark's, to interact with he and his staff on a variety of issues, as their doors and minds have always been open to us as they have sought collaboration on a variety of issues. It's my pleasure to introduce to you all the 43rd governor of the state of Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you to Rob. Thank you not only for the very kind introduction, but also for your partnership throughout the pandemic. So many of the challenges that everyone faced all across the state of Illinois. We had Rob at the table helping us think through how we could solve some of those challenges. And as well, Mark organizing the manufacturers across our state to see if we could come up with our own PPE here in the state of Illinois, and again, solve some challenges that we all went through. Illinois did very, very well during the pandemic at addressing the challenges, the health challenges that people had. And indeed, because of the work of Rob and Mark and so many of you, we saved lives and we kept people from needing to go to the hospital, and we kept those hospitals open during the pandemic, unlike many of the states around us and throughout the country. So thank you very much for all of your leadership in keeping Illinois healthy. Now I want to give you a round of applause. So I'm also really glad to have Mark and Rob and all of you as partners in our effort to grow the economy and to make Illinois an even more attractive place to do business. I'm very pleased to be here with the staff of IRMA and IMA who do interact on a regular basis with our staff, and we are solving problems together. You all represent two of the most important industries in our state, and we want to work with you going forward to make sure that we're getting rid of whatever barriers exist and of course, increasing the economic opportunity for all of you, which increases the economic opportunity for everybody in our state. Just last month, I joined IMA at the Governor's Mansion. You heard that in Greg's remarks, to honor the innovation and dedication to craftsmanship that Illinois manufacturers represent, and to announce the winner of Maker's Madness. Now, the winner of that competition, I mean, this is cool. Rosenberg Moon Habitat. If you haven't heard of this or seen it, it's a living quarters for astronauts on the moon or on another planet that can be 3D printed on site. So they don't need to build it and then take it with them. They can build it there. That's pretty cool. And it'll soon be a reality, because you're going to see more and more manned missions to space. And, you know, if you've wondered, you know, when man is really going to get back to the business of getting to the moon, getting to Mars, and really, you know, doing what I think John F. Kennedy dreamed of us doing. You're going to see it in the next few years, and Illinois is going to be very much a part of that endeavor. IMA's members employ 650,000 people who work on shop floors and production lines and tech centers to keep the state running and growing, driving one of the cornerstones of this state's economy. Our manufacturing industry has been a priority for me, so that I've worked with the legislature to get some things done that have, I think, made a real difference. We've passed incentives for electric vehicle OEMs and suppliers. We've created attractive new tax benefits for chip manufacturers. We've launched a closing fund to make Illinois one of the most attractive places in the country for companies that are outside of Illinois to come to. We've done other things, of course. Without the workers that you need to run your businesses, none of these businesses can succeed. None of you can succeed. So that we passed together, we worked on, Mark and I, apprenticeship tax credits. Thank you for your leadership on that front, making sure that we're investing in community colleges and workforce development programs, and building advanced manufacturing academies, partnering with companies directly to create those training programs for EV manufacturing, for aviation mechanics, for welders, for so many other of the skilled jobs that you all are creating in your businesses. We want to make sure that we have the most talented and skilled workers in America. And I can tell you that when I'm on the phone with CEOs here in the state and also from around the country, that is the most important thing that people talk to me about. That is one of our greatest assets that we have talented workers. Yes, of course, people are talking to Mississippi about low-wage workers that they can get if they put a low-wage manufacturing facility in that state. But what they talk to Illinois about is skilled labor and skilled workers, because we provide those, and we have the third largest community college system in the entire nation. And we're utilizing that to make sure that we're at the top of the heap when it comes to skilled work. Just a few months ago, Illinois' economy passed $1 trillion in GDP. We're the fifth state in the nation to reach that milestone. It's a big deal. We're now second in the nation for new corporate investment per capita. And that's in no small part because of the investments made by companies in this room. Take ADM, for example, who recently inked 2 new joint ventures with LG Chem to meet the growing demand for plant-based products. Or Caterpillar, which recently announced an expansion adding 180,000 square foot warehouse, their first new building in Decatur in 25 years. And then there's Rivian and Lion Electric and TCCI and Navistar and Borg Warner and all the leading companies in our state that are involved in the EV revolution. And in addition, because of our data center tax credits, which we passed in 2019, Illinois has become the second largest state for new capital investments in data centers, creating 8,000 new jobs. We've had $4 billion of investment in the data center industry just since 2019, and already there are $4 billion of new data centers that are being built today. So that's $8 billion, 8,000 new jobs. And they're telling me in the data center industry that although we're number 2 in the country right now, Virginia being number 1, we're headed for number 1, and I'm excited about that. This is a state that's been host to the invention of the escalator and the cell phone and the zipper and the dishwasher. And we've never stopped at innovating. And with 18,000 manufacturers now employing over 650,000 residents, we're just getting started. Now, matching that drive, step by step, is the Illinois Retail Merchants Association, employing nearly 1 in 5 Illinoisans and providing a firm foundation for our booming economy and giving people their first jobs often. Very important for the development of our economy and the people of our state. And it's currently, the retail boom here is currently growing more than any other state in the Midwest. You never hear that about Illinois, do you? And it's important for us, I think, to to hold up the achievements that we have, and one of them is just that. Working with IRMA, I signed the INFORM Act. That's designed, as you know, that's the organized retail theft as a felony bill. It's also empowering law enforcement to find and stop criminals who have stolen millions of dollars worth of goods from Illinois businesses. And with the help of IRMA and IMA, we were able to pass historic legislation eliminating pandemic unemployment insurance debt. And you heard Mark talk about that. Not an easy endeavor. We had a lot of people at the table with a lot of views about where that money should come from and how long it should take us to get it done. But everybody drove it forward. I will say, in part led by my Deputy Governor, Andy Manar, and our team, but also working labor and business together at the table, legislators too, in order to make that happen. We protected workers' benefits, and we also saved Illinois businesses millions of dollars in potential taxes. This historic effort wouldn't have been possible without those leaders that I mentioned. And I really can't stress enough how grateful I am for the partnership in creating a bipartisan solution to a bipartisan problem. Over the last 4 years, Illinois has achieved a lot of milestones that together too often get overlooked. And I want to cite just a few of them for you. I know there's a lot of talk about, well, gee, the federal money that came into Illinois, that's really what took care of the budget challenges of the state. Not true. We took the federal money that came from ARPA and we put almost all of it, if you look at it, at paying down debt in the state. Paying down debt in the state is a big deal. We actually paid down much more in debt than we got in ARPA dollars coming in. Now, yes, there was stimulus in the economy, and putting $1,400 in people's hands that they can go spend themselves brings in sales tax dollars for the state. But the reality is that we also did a lot of things that balanced our budget even before we got to that point. And we cut expenditures during the middle of the worst parts of the pandemic, the things that weren't going to affect people's health in a negative way, but we knew that we could cut back on in state government. We also brought in new revenue. We evened out the sales tax that was being charged for local businesses versus online businesses. That's a big deal. If you're a local merchant, and people are at home thinking I can save 6 or 7% on a purchase by buying online, the reality is we want people to walk into bricks and mortar stores. And we also want to make sure that the state gets its fair due on those online transactions. So that's one thing that we closed the loophole on in 2019 that brought in revenue to the state. Legalizing cannabis has brought in a couple of $100 million to the state and to local governments. And all of that together, we balanced the budget. We balanced the budget having nearly reached structural balance. When I came into office, $3.2 billion of a structural deficit. The idea that we are a hair's breadth away from structural balance is a big deal for our state, and it's paid off in the credit rating upgrades that we've received. 8 credit rating upgrades for Illinois, 8 credit rating upgrades. And although I'd like to celebrate just that, and it's a big deal, we had 8 credit downgrades during the previous administration before I took office. So we're just back to even now. We have a lot more to do. And so I hope you'll remind the legislators when you go talk to them about how important it is that we once again balance the budget, continue to pay off our debts, and so on. We've proposed a budget that is balanced, that does pay down debt, and I think we're going to be able to get that done. I just remind you that also when I came into office, we're more than $8 billion of overdue bills in the state. We were paying 12% interest on those overdue bills, 12. And now we have eliminated the overdue bills. All we have is accounts payable. We're paying bills within 16 days now. Anybody that's run a business like me knows that we're probably paying bills a little too fast. But we have a reputation to overcome in this regard, because it was all the way up at 200 plus days it took the state to pay bills. No one wants to wait that long to get paid, even if you're getting 12% interest on the loan to the state. The reality is that we are now in much better shape. We increased college scholarships for 26,000 more students. It's now free for those at or below median income to go to community college. And nearly all of our universities and community colleges have received credit upgrades, in part because the state's credit is so much better and because we are supporting our colleges and universities. And our small businesses, frankly, we've created more small businesses than ever before. No one pays attention to that fact, but it's a big deal. We're a state on the rise. Small businesses become big businesses, like many of you in the room here today. And so the more flowers that we can plant, the more flowers are going to bloom, and I'm really pleased about that. The members of IRMA and IMA employ and support working families across our great state, the men and women who get up every day and do the very hard work necessary to keep every part of our economy running, every supply chain, every grocery store, every factory, and none of our aspirations for our state can be realized unless your member companies are growing and prospering. And our job in the state capitol is to help you do that. And I'm very pleased to be your partner in that endeavor. So I want to thank all of you for the work that you do. Thanks for being here today. I don't know if I'm allowed to thank you for lobbying, but talking to your state representatives, your state senators, and to officials across the constitutional offices, it does make a difference. You're reminding everybody that if we don't grow the economy, if we don't grow the capitalist endeavor of the state and make sure that we're one of the best states in the country for businesses to thrive, then we cannot succeed as a state.
Thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our channel. And while you're at it, please leave us a comment. Thank you for watching.